the president being subservient to the American people. And since the military is subservient to the president and Congress, the military is also subservient to the American people. And that's what we have to keep in mind. When I discuss this with people, they say, well, that's all and good, but right now we have a presidential candidate who's a female, Hillary Clinton. We have a presidential candidate who's black, Barack Obama. So everything's good. I really don't see a problem with what's going on. But what we're dealing with now is not injustice. We're dealing with our very survival. If you look at Eisenhower's warning about the military-industrial complex, which has unfortunately come true, and if you look at the environment, we're dealing with our survival here, not just injustice. And the fact that people can't see that, it is our responsibility to help bring that to their attention in a way where we can unite people and not divide people along these wedge issues that really won't guarantee the survival and prosperity of the human race, hopefully for many more millennia. A way that I go about speaking to people, I personally don't like the term nonviolence because it's the negation of something. To me, it's an empty term. It'd be like calling the ground the non-sky or a female a non-man. What I like to refer to it is as peaceful democratic solutions. You appeal to people's sense of democracy. You appeal to people's sense of the reality that our democracy is founded upon the fact that we can make changes peacefully through changing elected representatives, through civil protest. That's what democracy is founded upon. So nonviolence, if you say that term, people, they don't understand what it means. Just like if you said non-ground. I don't know if you're talking about the sky, I don't know if you're talking about trees, I don't know really what you're talking about. If you talk about peaceful democratic solutions and how that has made our country great, you really appeal to what I believe most Americans have, and that is a respect for the values of democracy. And if you look at how we're driven into narrow nationalism, it's typically, well, we have to protect democracy. And people are trying to destroy our democracy. That's why you have to be nationalistic. If you're not nationalistic, then America will be taken over by a dictator and will be invaded. So people do have that sense of democracy that's taken advantage of, and we can't appeal to that. Another thing, too, is you can appeal to people's religious and philosophical background. If you evoke Jesus, who obviously supported nonviolence or peaceful solutions, and if you appeal to the Jewish prophets, Buddha, Hinduism has a wonderful tradition of peaceful solutions, as Gandhi has shown and many other people have shown. Taoism. Socrates probably, well, according to Martin Luther King, the very first example of civil disobedience in European history. And Socrates had a great influence in inspiring Martin Luther King that we can be active citizens and correct the government through peaceful protest, through questioning, through challenging certain policies. So, pardon? Yeah, any questions at all from anybody? Yes. Well, my father was in the Army for 30 years. He grew up in the Great Depression. He was born in 1925. He had me when he was 56. And he fought in the Korean and Vietnam Wars. And my mother's from Korea. She was in Japan during World War II. She was in Korea during the Korean War. And either my parents went to college. They didn't have any money to send me to a school. And I had really good grades, so West Point's a very good education. And most people go into the military from impoverished backgrounds, from poverty. And you get your education paid for, and that's why most people do join the military. So.
Well, I wonder if you comment on a statistic that recently desertions are tripled in the last
Right. Right. Well, I'm actually concerned about desertions because the way our military is set up is we're completely subservient to the American people. The American people aren't asleep at the wheel. The military can't do anything. For example, people in the military have limited access to the Bill of Rights. The reason for that is not that we can't speak against war, but so that we can't speak for war. So, for example, if the American people, and it is up to them, decide that we should leave Iraq, General Petraeus can't say, well, no, we should stay. This is a bad decision. Or in the 1970s, General Clinton have said, well, let's invade the Soviet Union. So it's actually a good system right now, if the American people take charge. But what's happening is the military is becoming more and more privatized. Right now you have civilians in Iraq with weapons. And I really think that if we had 10,000 soldiers refuse to fight, you'd have all those positions filled by government contractors, and we'd never get them back. And people someday might go, remember the good old days when the military was subservient to the American people, now it's owned by Coca-Cola. So I really think that the American people can do anything, which we have a lot of evidence for that. It's just not. Sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, Alex.
Oh, it's fine.
What I wanted to know about democracy legislation, what happens when the majority don't work? Or does the majority vote for some kind of like that we see as being negative?
Well, if you look at, people really don't want war. For example, if you look at the Iraq War, the appeal was, well, imminent destruction, we're going to be annihilated. The National Security Advisor at the time, Condoleezza Rice, said, we don't want the smoking gun to be a mushroom cloud. He's developing nuclear weapons of mass destruction. And then links to Al-Qaeda, September 11th, and we had the appeal to, well, the poor Iraqi people are under a dictator. We're trying to liberate the Iraqi people. And so what people didn't really want was war. The way everything was phrased is people want survival. They just, if you think your family's going to be annihilated by a nuclear weapon, people really want survival. We're at a point in American history. The Roman Empire, the British Empire, they could just say, well, we're going to, for example, Cato the Elder in the Roman Empire, whenever he would end a speech, he would say, Carthage must be destroyed. And when the Romans invaded Carthage, they killed every man, woman, and child, destroyed all the buildings, and sowed the ground with salt, so nothing would ever grow there again. The British Empire would just say, well, we're going to use these people for economic gain. But in our country, if we were to say, well, we're going to invade this country for economic gain, the American people would stand for it. So you have to have this appeal of imminent destruction. We're liberating poor, oppressed people. That's the only way you can convince the American people to go to war. Which says something very good about the American consciousness in this right now, is that we don't really want war, we just want survival, and we want people to be also accessible to democracy. So, sorry, go ahead. Pardon?
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, sure.
Well, I think
Can you all hear me?
yeah, but you should repeat the questions.
Oh, okay, I'll repeat the question. Sure.
I'm a little bit confused with the terminology that you're saying. The people can object to that, but yet then if you say the government has to say about Iraq, we want to free these people and we want to bring democracy to them. However, it's a big mess, and I think it was a big mess right from the beginning before we went there. And then in terms of non-violence and peaceful democratic solutions, the term that you're using or thinking, in that sense, like democracy seems very used and abused in these days. And when I hear you talk, and you know you have a military background, and most of what you said I like, and I don't quite know where to go with that because like you're Bush talking about democracy, yet he was not democratically elected. And the government the way it's set up here is that many scholars doubt that the democracy is in it. So that's possible. Non-violence in that sense makes more of a difference.
So you're asking if, just to rephrase the question.
That's really hard.
Yeah.
I think we all know what you're
Yeah, I could. The fact that we're not a real democracy. Well, we weren't a real democracy 200 years ago. A real democracy isn't what I would call a country where only white people have privilege. But we've become far closer to a real democracy through peaceful democratic solutions. And we can keep going in that way. So I'm not under the illusion that we're this perfect government. But within that government, we have a system where we can make things better and approach the ideal of democracy. So 100 years ago, we were closer to a democracy than we were 200 years ago because at least we didn't have slaves. Now we're closer to a democracy than we were 100 years ago because, for example, women can vote. And so 100 years from now, we might be even closer to being a democracy, a real democracy. So democracy is really a gray area. And we need to go along that line. And in our country, the thing about democracy is in a dictatorship, you're on autopilot. You don't have to do anything. But democracy, you have to drive the vehicle. So the American people have to be at the wheel driving. And if you fall asleep at the wheel, then it can quickly not become a democracy. Go ahead.
I think some phrases that were used to, I see it as a kind of redefinition of democracy, where people did kind of let
Well, in a democracy, we need questioning. Even if we're going to fight Hitler, we need to question. Even if we're going to participate in the most just war you can imagine, we need questioning, we need discussion, we need people debating, we need people conversing, dialoguing. That's what democracy is about. Democracy is about people dialoguing, discussing, and not just pulling out swords and killing each other. Oh, go ahead.
I kind of want to flesh this point out about the terminology you're using.
Right.
Obviously, nonviolent is a negative term going on in it, and I agree with you that it's using what's not negative. But I feel like democracy allows war, and you're allowing violence within the system. There's nothing within the system that says it's not acceptable. And I think a lot of what we talk about in this class is how violence is not acceptable as a legitimate solution or a viable solution, really achieving the ends that we want to achieve, which is peace, and peace is a better solution. So is there a way that you can dialogue with them so that they understand that distinction, really, without using the term violence?
Well, if you look historically, empire always marched the destruction of a democracy. If you look at Athens, if you look at the Romans. And democracy and empire cannot be compatible, because with democracy, you have that debate, you have that dialogue, you have that civil struggle. And democracies don't lead to war. Lack of democracy does lead to war, because in a democracy, it could lead to war, but it's up to the people whether they want war. And in most situations, in a real democracy, for example, in ancient Athens, if all the public is going to actually be involved in fighting, they're all going to get killed. And so they take war very seriously. If all the Athenian citizens are going to go fight, they go, well, wait a minute, should we actually be doing this because all our husbands and all our sons are going to be killed? Is this actually a good idea to go to war? All the men might be dead in our city-state. So in an actual democracy, it's actually anti-empire. Oh, go ahead.
I think what Carrie was saying, Paul, is that not only is democracy and imperialism not compatible, but democracy and violence are.
Democracy and violence are compatible?
Not-
Oh, right.
not have a democracy that says we will use violence.
Right. Or to oppress the people, or to shut down protests, or to break up. Yeah, I agree completely. You got a question?
I was wondering about, you were talking about deserting some of the conflict or
Right.
yeah, I really wonder about that. I feel like even if there's anything wrong, if you're saying subservience or allegiance to the president, I think like really about the subservience of power. You got to do it. Regardless of telling people probably using the line for that. Like yeah, how does that like civil disobedience? Like are you leading some disobedience charge?
Well,
like there can't be a war. Would you like to?
Right. Well, there also can't be a war if the American people don't let the war happen. And nowadays, I think we can have a war with very few soldiers, because if you look at the way things are being privatized, it's so profitable for companies like Blackwater and KBR to have people in Iraq. When people complain about the cost of the war, it's actually cheaper to have contractors and soldiers, because contractors typically don't get any health care, the family don't get any health benefits, and they don't need all that training that soldiers do. And people complain about dead soldiers, but no one counts dead contractors. So when there's all this public outcry about, oh, 3,000 dead soldiers, if we had more contractors, there'd be less opposition to the war. There's a lot of forces pushing for more privatization of the military. And there's generals complaining about, oh, my army's too small, I don't have enough people, I need more support personnel, and there's plenty of contractors looking to fill that gap. So times are really changing.
It seems to me like you're really well spoken. Like you were like up the stage and like go big, like you probably like speak.
Right.
I'm ready to like.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do. That's the point of the book. The point of the book. And I've interacted with Michael Nagler and Michael Lerner and Daniel Ellsberg, and I came here to meet my publisher.
So they should like, if you are conservative, they should go on front lines. Like you can like give your conscience to the American people and like put the responsibility for people on people.
Well, I think that me staying active duty does put that in the American people, because I tell them, whenever they ask me going back to Iraq, I tell them it's up to the American people if I go back. And that kind of puts a human face and really shows what the military is supposed to do, and how everybody in this room is not civilian master. All of you determine what the military does. So, go ahead.
I would like to hear from you how the American people can do that, because I agree with you. I remember March 2003 when the war broke out, we had millions of people on the street, but also in the US and New York and San Francisco and many other cities, millions of people on the street demonstrating against the war. And it didn't have to, how can the American people prevent you from going back to Iraq war?
Well, I think that through the 90s, after the Cold War, people really believed that you had a term called the end of history, everything was going to be peaceful. And I really think that through the 90s, people were pretty apathetic. People really weren't, they were not involved. So when there's no involvement for a decade, then it's, the lesson from that is if a war would end, and there's another decade where there's peace, people still have to be actively engaged, because you have to maintain peace. It's like a vehicle. You have to do maintenance. You have to preserve it. You can't just say, oh, we've won the peace and everything's fine. And so the American people through the 90s really weren't paying attention. And so,
How can we support you now?
right. Well, I think that there's a long track record of what people can do. If you look at Martin Luther King, if you look at Susan B. Anthony, if you look at what they wrote, if you look at what Mark Twain did, Henry David Thoreau, I think that the answers are there. But there's not enough people to really have an impact. And I have what I call the 10% rule. If you look at civil rights, or if you look at women's rights, it didn't come from the majority of the population. It actually came from a small percentage of the population. Martin Luther King didn't win freedom for his people because 90% of the people were in the streets protesting. It was actually more or less 10% of the population actively engaged. So you don't need everybody. You actually only need a small percentage. But right now, if you look at the environmental crisis, for example, we're nowhere near 10%. Not yet. But we don't want to believe that we have to have everybody. But also we don't want to believe that people can just wish for it to happen. We have to be actively engaged. And a very small active minority has a lot of power. As Carl Jung once said, 1,000,000 zeros don't add up to one. When a reporter visited Gandhi, he said, how many people do you have to defeat the British Empire? And Gandhi said, well, I have roughly 70, but I think my numbers will drop to 30. And then Gandhi, the reporter looked at him like he was crazy, and Gandhi said, well, I believe in the power of the individual. United individuals, if they're small, but they believe in what they stand for, then they can change even the most powerful empire in the world. No, go ahead.
I just have
Yes.
I kind of a follow-up to what you talked about.
Yes.
I feel like a lot of us in this class would be really happy to see the military completely eradicated. But I mean, you're saying you're going to stay now. I feel like you're really strong duty to the country. So I'm wondering, what do you see as kind of the future of the military if ideally we could make this,
Oh,
democratic
very good question. The way I look at the military, if you look at martial arts in China, if you look at the Shaolin Temple, for example, martial arts in China were an outgrowth of Buddhism. They were actually an extension of the principle of nonviolence. So the Buddhist monks believe that peace, love, and compassion are the most powerful force in the world, but as a last resort, if a brigand or a raider or a robber breaks into the monastery and tries to kill them, they have to defend themselves. And so the problem is not a Buddhist monk knowing martial arts. If a Buddhist monk knows how to defend himself, being responsible, and supporting the ideal of peace, they're not going to go out and wage imperial war. The Shaolin Temple wasn't going in India and trying to conquer things. So the problem is not people knowing self-defense, but the attitude that would prevent violence. So how can we apply it to our own country? Well, if you look at our country, it's already been applied. Our military is completely subservient to civilian authority. And although the founding fathers didn't talk about peace, love, and compassion as the most powerful force in the world, they did talk about democratic values as the most powerful force in the world, which to me are every bit as noble as peace, love, and compassion. And very similar, actually, to peace, love, and compassion, if you look at what democratic ideals are supposed to support. So we could have a country where democratic ideals, peace, love, compassion guide the country. In the military, our military is a lot of money goes into our military. I remember I had a West Point professor. He was a Rhodes Scholar. He was a major. One day he said, "We spend more on our military than the next 18 countries in the world combined." And we all sat there with blank looks on our face. And he goes, "Did any of you just hear what I said? Isn't that absurd?" But we were more in shock. And that's China, Russia, the NATO countries. And so, as Eisenhower said, when you buy a bomb, you take food away from your child, and you buy a aircraft carrier, you take away a hospital or a school that people could have had. So we need to reorganize the military, make it more efficient. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt you, Bob. There is an argument that when a democracy goes to war, it's worse, and when another kind of regime goes to war, the responsibility is diffused out of the whole people.
Right. The what?
The responsibility for it is spread out to the place I did this.
Right.
Now, what I think has happened to us is that the people have been fooled and trapped. Because once the war is started, it's not so easy to stop it because you have to have armor and trucks that you get blown up by an IED. And that's called a sacrifice grant. So what do we do with the situation where this democratic country has democratic institutions? It was hoodwinked into launching this war. And now it's so much more difficult to get out of it. What do you think the role should be of the military as an institution, of the individual in the military, and of us here at home?
Well, you're really pointing to the critical flaw of democracy. There is one critical flaw of a democracy. When you have a country that values freedom and liberty and prosperity for its people, you can convince citizens, this is most evident in ancient Athens, you can convince them to do extremely brutal things to protect their freedom. So, for example, Athens had high art, high philosophy. You had the beginning of science, you had poetry, drama, you had open debate. But they could tell the Athenian people, in order to preserve that, you have to do extremely brutal things overseas and annihilate your enemies. So democracy is actually so valuable to people, you can actually convince them to do those things. And then what we can do today, Iraq is a very difficult situation, extremely difficult. And it would take a long time to discuss a solution where it would take an extremely long conversation to talk about that. It's just so complex right now.
Maybe we should have that conversation with the other one.
Okay.
Well, Paul, thank you very much.
thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, people, that's it for today. I found it very stimulating. Let's rejoin it a little bit on Thursday on with the rest of the stuff.